Hello and welcome to another episode of Words with Myself. I saw an interview the other day of Rowan Atkinson, and he was talking about a quote that I had heard once before quite a while ago. And it was a quote from Charlie Chaplin, which is referring to life as a tragedy in the micro and comedy in the macro. And I think that quite beautifully captures how we take life so serious as we are living it. But in retrospect, or if we take time to step out of our perspective, we can see that things are not so serious and it's all a game from that level. If we zoom out, we can see how life is this marvellous game. And we see all of these different games being played out by all these different versions of us. From a scientific point of view, we can say, how insignificant we are in the grand scheme of the universe, in how we are this tiny speck of stardust in a infinitely vast cosmos. And yet, in a spiritual sense, we can say that we are all vibration, frequency. We are all God. We are all one. We are all particles. We are all atoms of the same matter. We see ourselves as separate from everything else. We see ourselves as isolated and different from our environment. But really, if we look at ourselves as atoms, or if we look at ourselves in the terms of frequency or vibration, there is absolutely no difference between self and other. The oxygen outside of my body is the same oxygen that runs through it. The carbon in the rock is no different to the carbon atom in me. We don't discriminate. We don't say, oh, that's Luke's carbon. That's a different kind of carbon. That belongs to the rock. And that's a different kind of carbon. That belongs to the animals. It's all carbon. And if we look at the very fabric of nature, it's exactly the same. It mirrors that principle that we cannot be without the trees, and the trees cannot be without us. And the trees can't be without the mycelial network in the soil. And the soil can't be without the biolife. Everything is a part of one system, and we all require each other in order to make this game, in order to make this reality. And to be honest, even that's inaccurate, because we don't need each other, we just need ourselves, because everything is ourselves. When we are referring to ourselves, I, Luke, whatever you refer to yourself as, you are referring to an ego, an identity, almost like a caricature of yourself. Because when I say Luke, what does that mean? Can I describe myself without describing any of the superficial attributes? I'm not my eyes, because if you take away my eyes, I'm still me. I'm not my skin. I'm not any one part of that, but all of it. And not just the physical attributes, but all attributes. I'm not just Luke the writer or Luke the podcaster. And no matter how long I make the list, it will never be comprehensive enough to capture what my being is. All of me. It won't even be close. It won't even be 10%. There is so much that I don't know of myself and that you don't know of yourself. I'm sure many of us have all done something scary or accomplished something and thought, wow, I really didn't know that I had that in me and that I was able to do that. And that's where that sense of achievement and pride comes in, where you feel like you exceeded the expectations of yourself. But for that to happen, for that to exist, it must mean that we don't fully know ourselves until all of it is realized. And when you realize the absolute depth of yourself, you understand that everything is you and you are everything, and you cannot possibly extend deeper than that. But this kind of thinking, when you open your mind to these kind of concepts, you have to start changing entire models, entire frameworks that you live your life by. Like time becomes completely distorted because you can see that time is infinite and never ending, and there is no time, and there is just event to event. Two people can have a different concept of time, and time moves differently for different people and in different spaces. And now that clear sense of self, that sense of identity, that who I am, that is all of a sudden unraveling in front of us. We're seeing that we cannot possibly identify so heavily with one part of ourselves, that to identify and single out this single bit of experience in all of experience, in all of the universe, is kind of silly. It's actually kind of funny that we are so invested in this single experience. There is where the comedy comes in at the macro, where we have zoomed out so far that we have seen that in the grand scheme of things, this is just a game, and you get to decide for yourself how you would like to play the game. Now, a game requires rules for it to be fun. If you play any game and you take away the rules, it becomes chaos, it becomes disorder, and there is no game because there are no rules, so anyone can do anything. You'd say, my piece takes your piece, and then the person takes all of their pieces in one go. It says, well, there's really no point in a game without rules. The rules are what makes the game fun. That's what creates challenge or stimulation. Now, before we even existed, we chose a set of parameters within the confines of the rules of the game. We chose to be us, and we selected this existence and said, this is the actor I would like to play. This is the dream I would like to have. And then when you came into existence, a prerequisite for existence is for you to forget who you are. Because in order to fully immerse into the character, we must forget that we are something separate from that character. We need to believe the illusion and set ourselves free to be able to experience this fully. And I do believe that this is sometimes lost on a lot of spiritual people, that they are trying to escape their humanity or get out of it or transcend it or ascend it. However they phrase it, they are ultimately missing the point that you're here to live that experience, not to escape it. That this is something for you to harmonize with and enjoy and live beautifully. Like, it doesn't have to be something serious and horrible. You can live absolutely wonderfully. You can live knowing that we are responsible for the life that we live. We are responsible for all the decisions that we make. We're not responsible for the conditions that we grew up in or the things that have happened to us, but how we choose to react and how we choose to act on those experiences, that is what will define this life. That is what will define your experience in this life. And that decision is completely up to you. You get to decide what a good life is. You get to decide what you get to do. You get to decide what experience you want to have. And yeah, that comes with consequences. Absolutely it does. It comes with the responsibility of knowing that if you choose to make certain actions, make certain decisions, those decisions are going to impact the experience that you have. But ultimately, you are free. You can do whatever you want to do. Literally anything. But you must know that you cannot control the outcomes. The only thing that you can control are how you choose to perceive the experience and how you choose to act in the experience. And the other parameters are predefined. You don't really get to choose how long you live. You don't get to choose, what family you're born into or what place you were born. There are lots of things that we cannot control. But just like a game, we can see what we can do with the pieces that we do have. We can twist the dials and turn the knobs. We can fine-tune and act within our path. We can choose how we observe and how we perceive the world around us. And two people will perceive the same situation or the same circumstances completely differently. Like the classic adage of the alcoholic father with two kids. One's an alcoholic and the other hasn't touched a drop of alcohol in his life. And of course, that's a rudimentary explanation of experience because there are so many factors, so many variables that come into this experience and all of the lines begin to blur. And we don't know whether something was of our own volition, whether that was our choice, whether we did that because we worked hard, or whether it was good timing and luck, or maybe just happenstance, like you were in the right place at the right time. If you look back on your life, everyone can pinpoint, at least one moment where their life would have been completely different if just one other thing had changed. So if you imagine all of existence and all of experience, and you are living an infinite experience and everyone else is living an infinite experience, and when you see how truly big infinite is, and how if you keep playing this game, if you keep tweaking and making little different decisions, you can completely change your experience. But you must allow yourself to step out of the context of yourself and allow yourself to consider other perspectives and look at life through a different lens. And when you begin to strip away your identity, your sense of self, and realize that this is all you get to decide how you change, how you choose to live your life. Rather than saying, I'm a good person, I'm this, I'm that, you can get to say, I don't know who I am, let's go find out. Or maybe you say, I want to be this kind of person or that kind of person. You free yourself from this idea of you that you've had for maybe your entire life, that you have pigeonholed and boxed yourself into this one ego, believing that you are only capable of being you and that you are trapped in your own persona. And when we liberate ourselves from this, when we choose a different perspective, we can completely alter our entire experience. And it's literally in one conscious thought. It's immediately available. But in exactly the same way that in order to be in this existence, in order to have this experience, we had to forget what we truly were and convince ourselves that we are someone completely different. We are not all of our trauma. We are not all of our memories or our sadness or our unhappiness. We are not our job. We are not any part of this. These are all elements that we have chosen to bring into our existence. These are all elements that we control. So ask yourself, what experience do you want to have? What do you want to be doing? How do you want to focus on all of those things that we can control and forget about everything that we can't?